Today's question is, what spiritual practices do I incorporate into my daily routine? This is a tough question just because what is a spiritual practice is pretty subjective. There's some stuff that we've universally accepted as being a spiritual practice, but it just comes down to what you do and where your mind is while you're doing it. With a stretch, anything can be a spiritual practice. The ones that I do that are pretty well understood as a spiritual practice in my daily routine, mostly meditation, yoga, although that's a bit more on the athletic side than it is on the, understanding and presence of mind side of things. Although, the more limber and comfortable your body is, the more open your mind is to whatever it is that it is going to discover through spiritual practice. And then there's also contemplation. Meditation is so important to me. I think I heard Andy Kaufman say that he thinks that meditation is one of the main reasons why he's still alive. And can I definitively say that? No, because I don't have an alternate reality to compare this to where I don't meditate at all to see how I would be otherwise. But I don't even like to imagine how I would be if I didn't meditate, because I already deal with issues of intrusive thoughts and anxiety and just really egotistical states of mind, as it is even with my meditation practice. Which just goes to show that meditation isn't a panacea for those kinds of things, but what it does do is it raises my awareness of those things, and it gives me some time where I can just sit and be aware of those things. It makes them a lot more okay. Makes you realize that there isn't any amount of suffering that you won't be able to apply presence of mind to, no matter how much you want those things to just go away. And I talked about that in my last video. Yoga, again, I used to say that I hated yoga because, it's uncomfortable to do, but my goodness, especially the effects that it has on my heart. On my heart that is very sensitive and very susceptible. Makes my heart a lot more wide open, and I think a lot stronger. The practice of really pushing my body to its limits in some ways. I always come out of it feeling like I can take on anything at the physical realm. And then there's also contemplation, which is, I've talked about before. You sit down and journal and just attempt to answer some big underlying questions. And what's awesome about contemplation is that it's different from meditation, because meditation, you're just allowing yourself to be aware of your thoughts. Contemplation is a time for me to indulge my thoughts, for me to test my thoughts in all kinds of different directions, follow all these different thought experiments, follow thoughts to their final conclusion, which you rarely ever do because you can always think more things, ask more questions, come up with more ideas. I think contemplation is just a fun little way that it's like I'm juggling with my thoughts, just doing some acrobatics with them, really forcing myself to think in ways that I wouldn't otherwise, and consider more possibilities for life. It's really, really fulfilling. It's really, really fulfilling to contemplate. We all of us contemplate in some way, right? I don't think my contemplation really became what I would call spiritual until about a year or two ago. And what makes all of these things the best, whether it's meditation or yoga or contemplation, is to view them as like an end in and of themselves, just the process of doing them. Similar to the concept of flow, just being in the practice of doing those things. You really, really come to like where you are at any given spot on the path. When you just recognize, hey, it's nice to just sit and get some headspace, or hey, it just feels really, really good when I stretch this part of my body this way. And oh man, does it feel awesome to come across some ideas that were inside of me that I could never quite put a fine point on before. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is the process of visualization, which in some ways is just a thing you can do at the egoic level to just get more things that you want. But I like to do it musically. I like to play my didgeridoo if I'm not actually chanting, and just do this whole process where I just think about what specifically do I want in my life, even at a materialistic level, and then what do I want internally? What are some changes I'd like to see within myself to make myself the best version of myself? What are things that I want for other people? And then the last section of it all is just letting it go. Visualizing what does it mean to release all my attachments to all of these things. I can still hope that these things come to me, but I am not dependent on them. My happiness is not dependent on any of those things coming to me. That's where I think my visualization has taken a step from the materialistic to the spiritual.